era la gorra antes. Y entra la juez. Brendan went out, he'll be back, I'm sure, shortly. I don't know where he went. Buenos días.
Buenos días.
At least that's what everybody says, because they hope it's gonna turn out that way.
Oh, John.
Maggie was in looking for him, and I said you went out.
Can I have you call somebody real quick?
How's that? You wanna talk to somebody?
Spanish. Can I have you call Spanish?
Yes.
She should be here. I don't know why she's not here.
What's the name?
Carla? Carla Reyes?
Is she on the list?
Yeah, she has birthday.
Carla Lisette Reyes, está aquí, Carla Lisette Reyes. ¿No?
Would you mind calling her? Do you want to phone on her?
Oh, yeah, yeah. You got a number?
Yeah.
See if she remembers.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's a message for
Hey.
No. No.
you know, you leave a message.
She may be not.
Carla, estamos aquí en la corte en Othello, son las 10:40. Le toca a usted estar aquí esta mañana. Por favor, venga para tratar el caso. Si algo pasó, pues avisa a la corte qué pasó, pero le esperamos a ver si puede llegar o en la mañana o después de la 1 hoy, miércoles, el 4 de diciembre. Gracias. Left a message. Nobody.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
If those are taken care of, I'm more inclined to be agreeable.
All right. Good morning, please be seated.
Morning, man.
Good morning, council.
Morning.
All right. Want to start calling?
Sure. Annette Garcia. It's 9Z604085.
All right, matters on pretrial?
Yes, Your Honor, we're requesting a continuance for 2 months. She's trying to get her license. She lost her employment, just got another job, so she thinks that with a couple months she can hopefully get her license. I know the state didn't want to sign off on this because she does have an outstanding warrant out of Lincoln County, I know. I have talked to her about getting that quashed, so she intended on doing that. It's just been tough for her with her job and her kids. So our request today is to continue this to February 5th. We would waive the speed trial through May 5th of 2020. It would most likely be our last request for a continuance.
And Your Honor, the 3 months. I understand that council's requesting a 3-month continuance. I note that,
Two.
two, I thought you said February.
Yeah, that's 2.
Next docket's in
Oh.
January.
Okay, my apologies, 2 months. I just would note that because the defendant has an active warrant for the similar crime, driving a license suspended out of Lincoln County, it's kind of counterintuitive to me that a person can be appearing in one court and giving continuance as well. She has outstanding warrants in other jurisdictions. So for that reason alone, I oppose.
And I appreciate that. I am gonna go ahead though and continue the case to February 5th in order to allow Ms. Garcia an opportunity to work on getting that license. That warrant in Lincoln County is not gonna go away. And, you know, if you're driving, you get pulled for something else, you can be arrested and hauled off to Lincoln County. So it's in your best interest to take care of that sooner rather than later. I'm sure your attorney has already told you that.
Hello? Yes.
All right, I've signed an order continuing this matter to February 5th. Ms. Garcia, if you don't have any questions, make sure you go to the window.
Okay.
And make notice of that hearing date, you know what happens if you don't show up.
Okay, thank you.
Alexander Williams?
This is cause number CCO 3112.
Your Honor, this is going to be a change of plea today. This was a resolution, global resolution with another matter in Superior Court. It was from the same incident. So Mr. Williams is going to be entering a plea today of guilty to an amended charge of reckless driving. And what we're asking for, what was agreed upon, is that he served 364 days in jail with 356 suspended, a total of 8 days to serve. Asking to convert those to community service hours of 64 hours, and no further violations for 2 years. The defense is asking to suspend all fines and discretionary costs. Mr. Williams just doesn't have the income. I know he works unofficially as a caretaker, has really no prior criminal history. We're not asking for any sort of evaluation or any other consequences of his plea. And I do have his statement as well as a motion of declaration order to amend that I've signed off on here. And as well as a certificate of his history and approach.
Yes.
Yeah, mine too. Brenda, they said, just called, she said she'll be here, well, she said she could come now, but I said I'm too busy, but she'll be here at 1.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe it's
we'll
Superior
get a
Court.
ranking.
Mr. West, was your client arraigned on the DUI charge in Superior Court? We're showing he's never been arraigned in District Court.
He was arraigned on the DUI here, and then it was dismissed without prejudice.
In District Court,
That's correct.
okay.
Yeah. And then
Under a different cause number, same charge though?
that's
Alright.
correct.
In any event, you'd waive reading.
We would.
I can call her back if you want.
And the, reason for the amendment, either counsel?
Your Honor, this was, Mr. Lehman had handled the defendant's felony matter, and this was part of the agreement. As far as the DUI component was concerned when the officers, I believe, responded, make sure I'm just in the right case. They responded to a suspicious call, and the defendant, just say was not cooperative, and he was arrested. We didn't have field sobriety test, or breath alcohol, test, and it was simply a blood draw. So given the resolution of the felony matter and, less evidence than seen in other cases as far as the DUI, is concerned, I think this is an appropriate resolution.
Thank you.
Your Honor, I would add, again, he doesn't have any, really, any prior history of, alcohol or drug-related incidents. Also, there still haven't been any results of that blood draw. I would note also that, Mr. Williams, did win his DOL hearing based on the judge in that certain hearing, when reviewing the police reports, found, there basically wasn't, enough to establish that he was DUI.
Thank you. All right, I have signed off on the motion amending the charge from driving under the influence to one of reckless driving. Mr. Williams, it's my understanding that you wish to change your plea and accept the state's offer to the crime of reckless driving, is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty to the charge of reckless driving today, that you are giving up certain constitutional rights, and one of those rights is your right to a jury trial?
That is correct.
You also understand that you are giving up your right to present a defense, as well as your presumption of innocence?
That is correct.
And Mr. Williams, do you also understand that I don't have to follow the recommendation requested by the attorneys that you are facing up to 364 days in jail?
Yes, I understand.
Need any more time to discuss this plea agreement with your attorney?
No.
To the crime of reckless driving, how do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
It says here that on June 8th, 2019 in Adams County, Washington, you drove a vehicle with a willful disregard for the safety of persons or property. Is that what you did that makes you guilty of this crime?
That is correct.
I find the defendant's plea of guilty to be knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily made. He understands the charge, as well as the consequences of the plea. There's a factual basis for the plea, and I find you guilty as charged. All right, is that on behalf of the state?
I have nothing further to add, Your Honor.
And, Mr. West, did your client serve any time in jail?
2 days. Your Honor, would add again as to the costs. As a result of this incident, Mr. Williams was taken to the ground. He did suffer injury, has a lot of outstanding hospital bills, which is another reason we're asking the court to consider waiving any discretionary costs.
Williams, I'm here for your testimony. All right, Mr. Williams, based on your plea of guilty, this court has found you guilty. Is there anything you'd like to say before I impose sentence?
This has been a very humbling awakening experience.
If you use the word awakening, how so, sir?
I have become aware of, my need to be more cognizant of when I am driving, vehicle conditions under federal.
Anything else, sir?
That's all.
All right, Mr. Williams, I'm going to sentence you to 364 days. I'm gonna suspend 354 of those days. That's gonna be for a period of 24 months. I will impose a $5,000 fine, however, I will suspend all of that fine. You are to serve a total of 10 days in jail. You'll be given credit for 2 of those days. The 8 remaining days shall be converted to 64 hours of community service hours. Strike that.
I'm gonna impose a criminal conviction fee, and there will be a probation fee. All the other costs, have been stricken. It's my understanding that you are working and able to work. Other conditions of this judgment and sentence include that you shall not drive a motor vehicle unless you have a valid license and proof of insurance, that you not commit a DUI or a physical control, that you submit to a breath or blood alcohol test upon the reasonable request of law enforcement, that you have no criminal violations of the law or alcohol-related infractions, and that you comply with any conditions imposed by the Department of Licensing. You are to report to the Adams County Probation Officer immediately following today's hearing. And that's because you are going to be on probation for 24 months. The first 12 months will be supervised. Mr. Martinez's office is right across the hallway here. And I just want you today to go over there and introduce yourself to him, and he's gonna review these conditions with you again. I'm also gonna have you attend a DUI victim panel, as well as alcohol and drug information school, and those are to be completed within 60 days. Any questions, sir?
No.
The only thing I need to include in here are the, we should have the community service hours completed. Let's see, it's 8 days. Can you get that done by the end of February?
That should be, yes.
That's something Mr. Martinez can assist you with. All right, Mr. Williams, make sure you go to the district court window first. They'll give you a copy of this judgment and sentence, and then, go across the hallway and introduce yourself to Mr. Martinez.
Rafael Silva.
This is 8Z10933006.
Tried to do this, last court date, he didn't have his proof of insurance, he has provided that today.
Application licencia.
Thank you. So he doesn't have his license yet?
He does. I think there's two different names, that it was showing under. He has a new license number.
Yeah, I'm showing it's still suspended.
Which one is out of there?
Let's see. It's the only one I have, let me see what I got.
I have a certified DOL record that's, shows that it was issued, October 12th, 2018. His
It's
license.
not even giving me another choice.
No. He has a few different names.
This one's under Rafael Sanchez Silva, and it's SILVAR.
This This is Rafael Sanchez on grade.
Is the state satisfied?
Yes, but I was gonna raise the issue of the court that, what he appears to be now is licensed and he's, proceeding in life as is not the name that is on the criminal citation in this case.
Yeah, and Your Honor, I think this had to do with when he got his birth certificate, and he got licensed under his birth name.
Mr. Silva, congratulations on getting your license,
Felicidades en que sacó la licencia, dice.
because you are now licensed.
Vea que tiene licencia.
The state has moved to reduce the crime down to an infraction.
Todavía, en vez de cobrar esto,
I'm gonna grant that motion.
en vez de crímenes y
Find the infraction of no valid operator's license with ID to have been committed, and impose a $250 penalty.
No quiso esto.
Any questions? Any questions?
Pregunta, duda. No, yo.
All right, make sure you go to the window before leaving the
Nada
courthouse.
necesita para hacer arreglos. Thank you.
Jonathan Lopez Pineda.
This is 9Z170212.
Your Honor, I have an agreed motion in order to continue
Tenemos
this
un
to
acuerdo, dice.
February 5th, 2020. He is trying to get his license.
Está tratando de sacar
It's most likely will be our
licencia.
last request.
Y es la última vez que vamos a pedir a pasar el caso. Para darle tiempo a sacar la licencia.
I sign the order continuing this matter
Yeah,
to February
thank you.
5th.
Yo no tengo que hacer nada.
Mr. Lopez, make sure you go by the window to get notice of that new hearing date, and good luck on obtaining that license.
Pamela Stelter.
Cause number CCO 111, matters on for arraignment.
Your Honor, we do have an agreement here. I have a 12-month continuance for dismissal, where she's agreeing to the following conditions: no further criminal law violations. She's agreeing to pay $150 in court costs, which I understand she'll pay today, and agreeing to only enter her own personal storage unit at Sun Basin Storage. And
All right, Ms. Stelter? Stelter. I've been handed the stipulation, what we call a continue for dismissal. Before I approve this agreement, I wanna make sure you understand what you're getting involved in. By entering into this contract with the state of Washington, you are giving up certain constitutional rights. One of those rights is your right to a jury trial. Do you understand that? Do you also understand that by entering into this contract with the state of Washington that, you're stipulating to the facts as contained in the police report? Other conditions of this agreement include that you shall not commit any criminal offenses that would be court cost in the amount of $150. That you're trespassed from, you're not trespassing. I guess you have a personal storage unit? Alright, don't go into anybody else's. And, that's it as far as the agreements go. And this agreement goes, I'm finding that the defendant has entered into this agreement knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily. I'm ordering that this matter be continued for 1 year to December 4th, 2020, for dismissal, subject to those few conditions we just went over. Make sure you go to the window and they'll give you a copy of this. Thank you.
Felix Barela. I have an agreed order here, for competency evaluation. It's been signed by both parties, asking for a competency evaluation out of custody, preferably to take place here at the courthouse as soon as you can do it. Approach.
Yes, please. Give me a moment to review this. Mr. West, are you gonna provide the, charging documents and the information, or?
Usually the state will provide those.
Actually, it should come from the court.
Okay.
I think Mr. Scudder spoiled us, though, he used to do it, so.
Yeah.
Well, I'll check, I'm just gonna let you know, I'm checking the box that we will do it.
Okay.
I got the original document from McKinnon when I called you. You want it? Yeah. Got it. Just making sure. I don't want to leak. Yeah.
All right, use the, order, and I'm signing it.
Judge, could we, since we're staying this, maybe have a review hearing, maybe in the March docket?
I was gonna say, it's been taking quite a while, so.
Yeah.
We will go ahead and set it on, do we have a March date? First Wednesday of March.
March 4th.
We'll continue this to March 4th, at 8 AM. That's gonna be for a status hearing. And, Mr. Barela is not gonna be required to be at the status hearing.
Want me to show up anyways? Just like,
You can.
like, okay.
However, if
This
for
moment,
some reason we do.
because I'll be in your
get,
face and they know I'm here. Like that. I'm right
If
here.
we do get a report back from Eastern, I do expect it to be noted up prior to that.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. All right. Mr. Barela,
Yes.
keep in touch with your attorney.
Oh, always do.
He
I'm,
does, Your Honor, and he now has my email address too, so.
Well, we're
Make sure I
continuing this
can-
matter in March. Your presence is not required, but if you wanna go.
if you have any discussions, I'll be here, you guys. I'm right here.
Yeah, just keep in touch with your attorney, okay?
All right. I'll sign at the window.
Sure, you can go to the window. Thank you.
Thank you. Just put it back. I'll be. I'm done. I gotta go to the window.
Feel free to give me a call. Thank you. We'll see you tomorrow. Do I do the community service? we send people out, I basically give them the community service form where community service can be performed at.
Is the Othello Senior Center?
Yes, it is.
Okay, because I know we used to, I know we used to, I just want to make sure we're still working on this.
So are you working still there?
Yes.
Okay. They haven't asked you to do the community service work, have they?
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was
I'm
just
just
gonna say.
letting you know that we used to do, if they didn't want to make them up,
Okay.
we didn't have it come up before. We
Okay.
have the form and everything. so-
Yeah, you guys are food bank, pet rescue,
Okay.
yeah, the typical nonprofit groups. Thank you.
Continue March.
Excuse me, sir. Did you forget your hat?
I gotta do the window before I get my stuff.
We still have your file, okay? We still have your
Oh,
file.
you want me to wait?
Yeah,
How much more?
a couple minutes when I'm done with your file. will be
Okay.
I think our basic up to 364 days in jail as a maximum sentence. Yeah. So we should go forward? Yeah. The crime of driving under the influence would be no test. How do you plead guilty or not? Says here that on July 28, 2019, in Adams County, Washington, you drove a vehicle while under the influence of alcohol and that there was no test. Is that what you did that makes you guilty of this crime? I find it defense plea guilty to be knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily made. She understands the charge as well as the consequences of the plea. There's a factual basis for the plea. And Ms. Mayberry, I find you guilty as charged. All right, Ms. Eddy, on behalf of the state.
Just briefly, Your Honor, I was looking over the defendant's prior DUI in 2014. I believe she got all 364 days suspended, so which indicates to the state that that's very serious circumstances, and that back in 1999 she was also convicted of driving under the influence while under age 21. And in this case, I would note that while the state has agreed to no test for the purposes of avoiding trial and the defendant being sentenced, that her breath alcohol content was close to approaching 3 times the legal presumption with a .215. So I asked the court to sentence her accordingly with the agreement.
And any objection to her being given credit for the time that she has served on Scram?
I think, I would defer to the court, given her criminal history, to me, I mean, Scram is something that's done pre-trial. So I defer to the court.
Thank you. Hold on one moment, Mr. West. All right, Mr. West?
Your Honor, I would ask that she be given credit. It's no different than serving jail time pre-trial. Give some credit for that time. As far as the 2014 DUI, Ms. Berry indicated to me that she did serve time on that. I don't know that that makes a difference for today or not, but as far as I'm aware, Ms. Mayberry has had no violations on her Scram. She's been on it since August 9th. This DUI occurred on July 28th. She has taken this seriously. She's admitting her guilt today, and she plans to move forward with her evaluation and following through with her probation conditions. So she intends to serve her jail time once she's able to take off her Scram device and go forward from here.
You know, she actually did violate the terms of Scram.
And when was that?
That was back in September, but we
Okay.
haven't had any notice of violations
Okay.
since then. But thank you. Ms. Mayberry. Based on your plea guilty, this court has found you guilty. Is there anything you'd like to say before I impose sentence?
Okay. Yes. Well, this was a huge mistake. I can't even justify it because I know I was wrong for drinking and driving. And I truly do try to not do that, And on the case of I don't know if I'm supposed to say this or not, but on my BENZEL, or on on my DUI in 2014, I actually was found guilty and they did sentence me 365 days. It ran concurrent with the sentence, so I did do the full 365 days on that charge.
And I think that's what Ms. Eddy was pointing out to the court, was that you would serve the whole year.
That I didn't serve any time, she's saying, I thought.
No, I meant if you had.
Yes,
that I
I
had-
was pointing out that you had
Oh,
served.
okay, I
the
just
whole
wanted
year.
to make sure, I'm like, wait, I did do that time for that DUI,
And that was with something else.
yeah.
Right, concurrent with something
Yeah.
else. Anything else, Ms.
No.
Mayberry? Figuring out how to write this, but I'll tell you what I'm gonna sentence you to, Ms. Mayberry. I'm gonna impose 364 days. I'm gonna suspend 330 of those days. No, 334 of those days. Those 30 days can be served by spending 4 in custody, in jail, and then the remaining 26 days will be converted to 180 days of EHM. I am gonna give you credit for the time that you've spent on SCRAM. The court's not bound by that. But you will be given credit. So you're getting a break here. However, you do still have those remaining 334 days hanging over your head. And I'm sure your attorneys told you that if you don't comply with the conditions that I'm getting ready to impose, you could actually sit those days out in jail as well. Right, so let me just figure out how to write this.
Oh, did you do 1 day? Okay. Your Honor, Ms. Mayberry made me aware, she does have 1 day served, if we can put that word served. One of her 4 days in jail, we should have.
I'll give you till, I'll give you till December 15th, so there's 4 days served.
Which date was that, Your Honor?
December 15th?
She's wearing the device still, so
You'd have to,
she'd have to unhook and then, can she just serve the days when she's off?
that would actually make more sense. Let's go ahead, since you already have it on. Kinda forgot about that. We're gonna have you report, let's see, she still has, if she's getting 100, she
She'll have
has about a month.
65 days left.
I'm gonna give you till the end of January to serve those remaining 3 days. She'll be off the scram by then, right?
She won't, Can we do end of February?
They said she'd done 151.
No, 115.
Oh, I thought you said
Yeah.
51.
No,
I
so
beg your
she'll
pardon.
have 65 days, so she'll be off sometime in February.
Maybe till the end of February. Actually, let's just play it safe, March 15th.
Your Honor, I didn't see anything in here that the state had been made aware that she violated SCRAM. I just asked, how is the state typically made aware of that, if there are any SCRAM violations in the future?
Yeah, I don't know where the state was, but it was on the record. Ms. Mayberry, we discussed it at one of her hearings. So perhaps the defense counsel hadn't been appointed yet, but I know Ms. Mayberry was made aware of it, and,
Could be
I
a fire
basically
attorney
said
didn't
there,
take notice.
there would be repercussions if it happened again. So. You should be getting copies of those things, so we can discuss it afterwards.
Ms. Mayberry, getting back to your sentence, the remaining days will be suspended for a period of 5 years. I'm going to impose a $5,000 fine and suspend 4,500, that is the mandatory, correct? Mandatory minimum, 500? Maybe you're gonna have to fill that out. So it is the assessment. Alright. There'll also be an alcohol violator fee, criminal conviction fee, and criminal traffic fee, as well as a probation fee. And that's because you are going to be on probation for 5 years. The first 2 of those years will be supervised. The remaining 3 will not. In addition to your jail time and your LFOs, your legal financial obligations, there are mandatory conditions of this judgment and sentence. You shall not drive a motor vehicle without a valid license or proof of insurance. You shall not commit another driving under the influence offense. You shall respond with to a breath or blood test upon the reasonable request of law enforcement. You shall comply with all the requirements imposed by the Department of Licensing. You shall have no criminal violations of the law or alcohol-related infractions. And you are to refrain from consuming alcohol. Okay. You are to report to the Adams County Probation Officer immediately following today's hearing, and that again is because you are on probation for 5 years. You are also being ordered to obtain a substance use evaluation within 60 days of today's date, and start any recommended treatment within 30 days after that evaluation. Finally, you are to attend a DUI victim panel within 60 days of today's date. Any questions about the conditions? All right, Ms. Mayberry, make sure you go to the window, we'll give you a copy of this, and then you need to go to Mr. Martinez's office. That's cause number 9Z523304.
Your Honor, it's going to be a guilty plea today, as charged. We have an agreed recommendation that she would serve a total of 3 days in jail, so 90 days, 87 suspended. We'd ask to convert the 3 days to 10 days of electronic home monitoring, suspend her fine, no criminal violations for a year, and she is on probation, so we'd like to address those today if we can. Basically, she would stipulate that she violated the terms of her probation by this new offense, and we'd ask to just run that concurrent with this charge today. And I can explain more when you want me to talk again. Doesn't may I approach?
Yes, Mr. West. What other file that is she on probation for?
She's on probation for supplying liquor to minors in 8Z0368159.
That must be under a different name. Leonella?
And then driving while licensed suspended in the 3rd degree for 8Z0299827.
And I have those, they're not under
That's kind of a different name.
They're not under her defendant case history, under JIS, but I do see them under confidential record. Under Leonella Cardona.
For those two files? Okay, sorry. I'm gonna go ahead with the guilty plea first, though. Alright, you are Leonella Cardona,
Yes.
and you're gonna be pleading guilty today to the charge of driving while license suspended 3rd degree.
Yes.
And Ms. Cardona, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you are giving up certain constitutional rights?
Yes.
One of those rights being your right to a jury trial? Presumption of innocence, you're giving that up. Ms. Cardona, I also wanna make sure you understand that, you are facing up to 90 days in jail. That your attorney's recommending that you serve 3 days and have that converted, but that the court doesn't have to follow that, do you understand?
Yes.
You still wish to go forward?
Yeah.
To the crime of driving while license suspended in the 3rd degree, how do you plead, guilty or not guilty?
Guilty.
It says here on May 29th, 2019, in Adams County, Washington, you drove a vehicle while your license was suspended in the 3rd degree. Is that what you did that makes you guilty of this crime?
Yes.
Crime the defendant's pleaded guilty being knowingly, intelligently, and voluntarily making which understands the charge, as well as the consequences of the plea. There is a factual basis for the plea, and I find you guilty as charged. All right, on behalf of the state, Ms. Eddy?
Oh, you know, when the defendant was stopped, she indicated that her son had been sent home from school as she was driving him to the clinic, and that was her need to drive. That's okay. And if probation violations haven't been filed in the other 2 cases, I'm fine agreeing not to file one.
I understand it's part of the agreement, so.
Okay.
But I'm sorry to have interrupted you.
Oh, that's okay, Your Honor. And so the, her excuse was she was driving her son to the clinic, but someone else had taken her son from the school home, so in the state's opinion, you know, that same person could have escorted her and her son to the clinic rather than the defendant breaking law. I understand that there's been some issue with criminal history, and what I understand is her sister using her identity. Part of the reason the state has agreed to this, where the state might otherwise be maybe a little bit more strict with a penalty, is because of those circumstances, and because we did get a letter from her employer, who I understand is also here in support of her. And so I'll let Mr. West describe a little bit more detail if the court wants, but that is why the rationale why the state is in agreement with this recommendation, whereas we might not otherwise.
Thank you. Mr. West?
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, as far as her sister using her identity, that's correct. Ms. Cardona has her employer, Ms. Jill Smith, here in support of her, has been attending every hearing with her, trying to help her clear up this situation, but basically, her sister, who now has fled to Mexico, used her identity, was charged with vehicular homicide, and which has been tied with Ms. Cardona's name. Ms. Cardona has been held in the Franklin County Jail on that charge for over a week. Had to have one of the prosecutors there clear things up to have her released, and that was the last time she was in jail. She was taken from Adams County to Franklin County on a charge she didn't commit. So her fear is, if she is taken back to jail, she could be held again on another charge that she didn't commit. But again, that's something they're working on, which also ties into her license. It's made it difficult to get her license. Although she does admit she was driving that day when she was in fact suspended, there are mitigating circumstances here at play. She does have 4 children at home that she takes care of. She's a single mother, 3 young ones, 14-year-old with autism. So, Your Honor, we'd ask the court, to, any jail time that she'd be allowed, to do this home monitoring. She is employed as well, and her employer can attest to that if the court would like to hear from her. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West. Ms. Cardona, based on your plea guilty, this court is found you guilty. Is there anything you'd like to say before I impose sentence? Where are you working?
In this dairy,
Where? I'm sorry.
on the dairy.
On the dairy? Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. And that's full-time?
Yes,
And you are diligently working on obtaining your license?
yes, I am, and that's why I have to get in training to fix my cars, cause they got me confused with my sister, and I've been arrested 3 times of that, and I've been in jail for that too.
So what's holding up your license though? Is
It's
it failure to pay
No,
fines?
cause they have my sister record and mine together, so that's the problem.
Are you going to be able to
Yeah,
get your license?
It sounds like she will eventually, but it's gonna be a process. It has been so far.
Alright, Ms. Cardona, I am gonna follow the recommendation of the parties. I'm gonna impose 90 days, I will suspend 87 days, that's gonna be for a period of 1 year. I will allow you to serve those 3 days on electronic home monitoring, 10 days of electronic home monitoring. Are you gonna be able to afford that?
Yes.
So I don't wanna set you up for failure. And can you be on that by December 15th? I'm also gonna impose a $1,000 fine. I will suspend all of that fine. I'll do a criminal condition fee of $50. I will suspend the, traffic fine. There will be a probation fee, because you are gonna be on probation. So I'm gonna cut that in half. Put you on probation for 6 months. I'm also including here that, any time that is to be imposed on the review matters, 8Z 299827 and 8Z 368159. Any time imposed on those matters will run concurrent with this judgment and sentence. There are additional conditions of this judgment and sentence, and those include you cannot have any criminal violations of the law, and you cannot drive a motor vehicle without a valid license and insurance. Even if you think it's not your fault, you just can't do it until you have that valid license, under any circumstances, okay? You need to report to the Adams County Probation Officer today. Mr. Martinez, his office is right across the hallway. He's actually sitting in the courtroom today. And that's because you are gonna be on probation. I'm gonna make it for 6 months, or supervised probation for 6 months. You're on probation for a year, supervised for 6. Any questions? Alright, and I'm going to, Ms. Hetty, so it's the state's recommendation that, she be given what on these other 2 review matters? The same sentence?
Well, and it's not quite clear to me that we're still, like, in a lot of cases, I don't have, the state hasn't, I don't know what the glitch is, but we haven't been getting copies that things have been, filed, for violations, and I think after speaking with Mr. Martinez, we're more on board with the state getting the paperwork we need, so it's not clear to me if there's been anything filed to revoke probation, but if there has, because we don't have anything in our files, I would agree that it would run concurrent. But if nothing has been filed, then
No, there hasn't been anything filed. These
Okay.
weren't even on the docket.
okay, so then I would just agree not to file anything in those cases, and
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's an alleged violation that she drove, but has not been noted up.
Your Honor, if I may? So,
Yes, Mr. Martinez?
so the department has, not not knowing of the violations because of the situation that Ms. Cardona is in. We're well aware of her situation and the mishaps with her sister, and so we decided to wait on the violation. If indeed we were gonna do it, we're gonna do it later on, but this is one of the reasons why it has not been noted up.
Thank you, Mr. Martinez. With that, I'm gonna strike this part of the judgment and sentence that says any other amendments were on concurrence. There's no confusion. These violations haven't been noted up and will not be noted up pursuant to a plea agreement. All right, Ms. Cardona, if there's, you have no questions, should you go to the window and set up a payment plan and then go meet Mr. Martinez? Actually, Mr. Martinez, do you need her to meet with you today?
She can come back tomorrow morning.
Well, whatever, she's being driven by her employer, so I think. Okay, make sure you go to the window.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see. Alfredo.
Need a sign? Sign now?
Mark's worked at 10.
Today is the December 4th, 2019.
Correct.
Address?